This week's episode is brought to you in part by Adobe Systems, the people who bring you Photoshop, Illustrator, and an entire line of software for web design and video. CDW, for hardware, software, gadgets, and more, CDW has the right technology right now. DLO, makers of the Home Dock Deluxe. Watch your favorite podcast on your TV with the Home Dock Deluxe from DLO. Azo, makers of high-end monitors for creative and moving image professionals. And iStock Photo, the world's preeminent collection of member-generated royalty-free images and digital art.
Well, hi everybody, and welcome to another episode brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, the fine people who bring you Photoshop User Magazine. Hey guys, we're not in the studio yet. We're here on the golf course because we figured, well, since the studio's not ready and we might have to shoot from someplace, I'd like to introduce you to the crew. Back with us once again is Mr. Matt Kloskowski.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
Welcome
I'll
back,
welcome
Matt.
myself back.
Also, Mr. Corey Barker, the Photoshop laddie.
Hello everyone, good to see you again.
And a foreign man from a foreign land, Mr. Dave Cross.
Hey peoples.
Well, it's been an exciting week this week. We, of course, had Adobe's announcement of last week of Photoshop 1.1. So if you haven't downloaded the version, go to Adobe's website and download it. And also, the kid Kloskowski over here has got a brand new 21-day online training course, right?
I do.
And you can go watch it at PhotoshopTraining.com. So go check it out. It's all on brand new on 1.1. For those of you who bought my Lightroom book, I've got a 1.1 update already up on the web. Go to peachpit.com or go to my blog and you can get it from there. And there's nothing about 1.1 from Dave or Corey.
Not at all.
So if you guys just go to the next hole. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So anyway, a lot of exciting things happening there. Of course, we got lots of news. We got some tutorials. We got some scoops. But first, Matt's got to hit a shot.
I do. All right, well, after that shot, I'm pretty sure why I teach Photoshop for a living. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you some of the new updates inside Camera Raw, specifically the new sharpening features inside of Camera Raw 4.1. So let's take a look.
Well, now I'm in Camera Raw 4.1, which, by the way, is a free update from Adobe. You can get it at their website. It's adobe.com/Camera Raw. Now, inside the basic panel, you're not really going to find too much new. The clarity slider's new, but let's get to the stuff you really want to see, and that is under detail. It's the new sharpening settings here. And it tells you at the bottom here, you need to be looking at the image at 100% view or larger to really be able to see what's going on. So we're going to zoom into 100% and then take a look at this bottom part of the photo. Now, amount is really kind of the brightness of the sharpening. So what happens is when Camera Raw sharpens your photos, it's looking for the edges, and when it finds those edges, it's either making them brighter or darker depending upon what colors are around them. So what you're saying with amount is, how bright or how dark do I want to make those edges? All right, so as I increase this amount setting, and you see I'm zoomed in here, you'll start to see those edges become brighter, or when I pull it down, see how they get to be darker, or not darker, but just not quite as bright. All right, so what you're doing here is you're making those edges brighter. Now, the setting goes up to 150. Honestly, you don't really want to go over 100. It's really a 0 to 100 setting. That extra 50 is kind of for extreme circumstances. So I find generally something in the 50 to 70 range works pretty good. Radius says, now once I find an edge to sharpen, how far from that edge do you want me to go? How far do you want me to expand the sharpening effect, the amount that we applied in the first step here? All right, so generally 1 pixel will work just fine. Sometimes I've seen 2 pixels work well. 3 pixels is probably pushing it a little bit, but generally 1 pixel works really well. Detail then says, I'm going to zoom in here even a little bit more. Let's go into the 200 zoom view. And what detail said is, how much do you really want me to look for edges to sharpen? Okay, a detail setting of 0 says only look for the really contrasty areas to sharpen, which, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and turn the preview on and off here. This is off, and this is on. So we don't see too much changing here. But when I start to increase the detail setting, now take a look at it. This is before, and this is after. All right, so you can see some of these edges in here. I'm going to zoom in even more so you can see them closer. This is before, and this is after. So what detail is saying that once I find an edge, how far do you want me to go beyond those edges to look for things to sharpen? Do you want me to look for more, or do you want me to look for less? The lower you have detail, the less it will look for. A good example for something like this is if you're sharpening portraits. If you're sharpening portraits, you really don't want to go beyond those high contrasty areas that you'd see maybe around the eyes or the lips. So we'd keep a low detail setting, keep it away from the skin texture. In this photo, I can get away with a lot because there is a lot of detail in the photo. Okay? And then the last one here is masking. And what masking is saying, all right, now do you want me to mask away any of these changes from the surface areas? So what this means is any continuous tone areas, you can mask away the sharpening. And the best way to do this, hold down your Alt key on the PC or your Option key on the Mac, all right, and start dragging masking. And see what starts to happen here? Okay, when it's white, everything in the photo is getting sharpened using the sharpening settings above. But as I drag it to the right, what it's doing is it's masking it away from the surface areas that have kind of a continuous tone to them. All right, so you can see here when I let go, this didn't get sharpened too much. Let's look at the preview. That's before, that's after. It didn't sharpen this flat surface area. It's not sharpening this, but it is sharpening a lot of these edges. Again, before and after. So you can see it affected in the edges, but you don't see it so much affected inside the smooth surface areas. So another good thing to keep in mind with masking, I'm going to hold down that Alt or Option key again, is when you've got photos with a lot of detail in them, well, go ahead and keep that masking down low because it's okay to mask a little bit more. Okay, when you have a photo such as a portrait, go back to that other example and you get into that portrait. Well, I don't want to start to sharpen those surface areas, those continuous tone areas like we would have on the cheeks and on the forehead, because what that would do is start to introduce texture to us. And we don't want that texture. So we can increase our masking and bump that pretty high to keep the sharpening away from those areas. So there you have it. That's the sharpening features inside of Camera Raw 4.1.
So as you can see, Camera Raw 4.1, the new sharpening controls, it's a huge improvement over what we had before. So take a look at it. Now, what's up next? Well, we have Mr. Deke McClellan, Photoshop World Instructor, Photoshop Hall of Famer, overall cool guy. He's going to do a couple of segments for Photoshop TV. So not just this week, but over the coming weeks. So we are proud to welcome Mr. Deke McClellan. Let's take a look.
Hey guys, Deke here, and boy, I gotta tell you, it's such an honor to be on Nap TV. I'm so psyched. I love you guys, and I really, really love that set. You gotta tell me who designed it, because I want to gut my entire house and do it just like that. With a guy wandering around in the background and the junk off to the sides, it's brilliant. And it's so green, you know, it's really pretty. Meanwhile, I'm in my recording pod, which, as you probably know, is where podcasting gets its name, because we're casting from pods. That's how it works, which is pretty much all I know on that topic. But I have something to show you on the topic of Photoshop. This is by way of an advanced, somewhat advanced Photoshop trick, a really oldie but a goodie. Some of Photoshop's oldest commands are hugely powerful, and this is a great example. It's a command called multi-channel. I don't know if you've ever seen it. You go down to the image menu and then to the mode submenu. It's right here on screen. And there you'll find color models like RGB color and CMYK color and lab color. So you can take an RGB image, for example, with 3 channels, red, green, and blue, and convert it to CMYK, 4 channels, right? Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, for commercial reproduction. And when you do, Photoshop converts the image. It actually changes the contents of the channels in order to maintain the appearance of your artwork. But what if you don't want to do that? What if you want to go from one color model to another without performing a conversion? Leave the pixels the same and let the color of the composite image change. Well, you travel through multi-channel. You go from RGB to multi-channel and then to CMYK. It's a little wonky, to be sure, a little unusual, but if you're up for a challenge, you can achieve some intriguing effects. You guys ready? Okay, well then, here, let me show you.
Here we are looking at a very colorful image from photographer Sofia Sibakaki, who's based out of Macedonia, and she's with iStockPhoto.com. And I want to take this colorful image and I want to convert it to a sort of a sepia tone, a very warm, rich image. And it's going to look like this here. And we're going to do that by taking the RGB image to the multi-channel mode, then to CMYK, and then finally back to RGB. It's going to be sort of a strange journey, but a very rewarding one, I think. All right, so let's go back to the full RGB version of the image. I want you to see the channels before we go any further. This is the red channel, very light. This is the green channel, a little darker, definitely a lot of contrast going on here. And here's the blue channel, quite dark. But every single one of these channels has nice smooth transitions. All right, I'm going to switch back to the RGB image, and I'm now going to go up to the image menu. I'm going to choose mode, and I'm going to choose CMYK color. This is the standard way to convert an image from RGB to CMYK. And if you go this conventional route, then notice that the image only slightly shifts on screen, a very slight color shift here inside the image window. Meanwhile, our channels have shifted quite a bit. They've gone through a complete and total transformation. Here's the cyan channel, very, very light with a heck of a lot of contrast and some pretty sharp transitions going on. Here's magenta. Very high contrast, more so than the green channel we saw a moment ago. Here's yellow, very dark, much darker than the blue channel we saw a moment ago. And here's black, which of course popped out of nowhere, right? All right, so that's your standard conversion from one color mode to another. But let's say I decide to undo that, so I'm pressing Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac. Instead, I'm going to go to the multi-channel mode. I'm going to go to the image menu, choose mode, and choose multi-channel. That's not going to perform any conversion whatsoever, but it's going to look like it's performing a heck of a conversion. Watch this. As soon as I choose the command, what the heck happened to the image on screen? So big transformation to the image inside the image window. Meanwhile, the channels have all been renamed. We have cyan, magenta, and yellow, but they are in fact the red, green, and blue channels. They've just been renamed and of course given new meaning inside of this multi-channel image. What I need to do now is I need to generate a black channel in order to make this mix succeed here. So I'm going to go up to the cyan channel. I'm going to go to the image menu and I'm going to choose calculations. The calculations command allows you to mix a couple of channels together in order to create a new channel. So we're going to mix cyan with itself in order to manufacture the black channel. And I'm going to do that by making sure that source 1 and source 2 are both set to the image that I'm working on, which is indeed painted couple.jpg. Both of the layers should be set to background because I'm working with a flat image. Both of the channels, in my case, should be set to cyan because I want to multiply the cyan channel by itself. And I have the blend mode set to multiply, so I'm darkening those colors. I'm going to back off the opacity value to 70%. So just a little bit nudge back here. And then I will put the result in a new channel. Fine. I'll click OK. And there's my new channel. Now it's called Spot Color. What gives there? Well, let's go ahead and view these channels in color, the way that Photoshop sees them. By going up to the Edit menu, those of you on the Mac would go to the Photoshop menu. Then go down here to Preferences. And then go over here to Interface. That's new inside Photoshop CS3, by the way. And you need to turn on this guy right here, Show Channels in Color. And then click OK. And notice as soon as you do, you're going to see the colorized versions of these channels. So we have a cyan channel, a magenta channel, a yellow channel, very obvious, and another cyan channel. And Photoshop's going, I don't know what you're up to, buddy. I'll just call it Spot Color 1. All right, well, now it's your turn to tell Photoshop what you're up to by double-clicking on this Spot Color 1 channel. Then click on this little swatch right here in order to bring up the Color Picker dialog box. Watch the name. I want you to watch the name up here. Right now it's called Spot Color 1. If I change the cyan value down in the lower right region of the dialog box to 0, and now I change the K value to 100, watch that name up there. As soon as I change it to 100, Photoshop automatically renames the channel black. It goes, aha, I get you. I get what you're up to. You're a slippery one, but I understand now. Click OK in order to accept that change. Click OK again in order to accept that change, and we're back to a cyan, magenta, yellow, and black image. Go ahead and turn on all of the eyeballs here. Just drag up them so you can see how the channels mix together. Now, this image is too dark. It's got too much ink coverage, and therefore the image would actually run on the page. If you were to give it to a commercial printer, these inks would not stand up. They would actually smear across the page. And that's because the paper can't absorb that much ink. So what we need to do is get rid of some ink. I'm going to go over to the cyan channel right here, and I'm going to fill it with white. Notice white is my background color. So I'm going to fill it with white by pressing Control Backspace. That's Command Delete on the Mac. And now we have the image that we're looking for. This is the final image. However, problem is, this is a multi-channel image. Photoshop doesn't really know what to do with it. Your commercial printer really doesn't know what to do with it, so you have to identify it as being a CMYK image. So go up to the image menu, choose mode, and choose CMYK color. But before you do, know this. When I choose this command, no color conversion will occur. I'm just putting the cyan channel into the cyan container here in the CMYK color version of the image. Same with magenta, yellow, and black. They're going into the magenta, yellow, and black plates. However, it's going to look like a conversion is occurring on screen because we're going from an unmanaged environment to a color managed environment. So it's unmanaged when we're working with multi-channel. It's managed as soon as we go to CMYK color. So go ahead and choose that. Sure enough, our image shifts on screen a little bit. However, nothing has changed here inside the channels palette except that we've now got a composite view of the image. Now, let's say finally, I want to print this image to my local inkjet device. And my local inkjet device, of course, requires that I'm working inside the RGB mode. That's the way most inkjet printer drivers work, is they want you to print from an RGB image so that they can do the conversion to whatever inks your printer uses. So you go back up to the image menu. This time we're really going to perform a color transformation. We're going to go from CMYK to RGB for real by going up to the image menu, choosing mode, and choosing RGB. Photoshop will go ahead and perform its automatic conversion in order to maintain the appearance of the image to the highest degree possible, as it's done here. And so just to give you a sense of what we've accomplished, we're back inside RGB. We've come full circle. This is the original version of the full color image. This is our modified version, our nice, rich, warm sepia tone, if you will, that we achieved using the multi-channel mode.
So thanks very much, Deke, for giving us that very, very cool clip. That was pretty cool, eh?
Very cool.
And also, Deke's got a brand new book out, Photoshop One-on-One for CS3. Or actually, it's probably called Photoshop CS3 One-on-One, wouldn't you think? Anyway, go check it out. It's from O'Reilly Publishing. Also, Deke has got a brand new class on lynda.com. So if you like online training, go check it out. The web address is, of course, lynda.com. And Deke is one of my all-time favorite trainers, and he teaches at Photoshop World and stuff.
I was going to say, if you want to see Deke live, he'll be at Photoshop World. He's doing a pre-con and some other classes, including at least one brand new class this time around.
Yeah, in fact, I think his class, he's got a class on channels and masking at Photoshop World. So pre-conference is the fastest filling up free pre-conferences of all the pre-conferences. So check it out. That's our buddy Deke McClellan. Well, again, like Matt said, he'll be here with us for a few episodes. So make sure you check out more stuff from Deke.
Right on.
Alrighty, hey, how's it coming over there, Corey?
Yeah, well, just trying. Hang on. All right.
Alrighty, well, hey, we are going to take a short break from here on the course, but stick around. Mr. Dave Cross has got a tutorial coming up. We've got contests, we've got prizes, we've got one for the road, we've got news, we've got a whole lot more, so stick around. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Oh, Matt's up here.
Oh, nice attempt, though.
Greg, this should get your business going.
Thank you, Bob. Perfect.
With dedicated account managers who understand what you need when you need it, we're there. CDW.
All right, we are back. I'm Scott Kelby, and of course, joining me as always, Mr. Dave Cross, Matt Kloskowski, and Corey Barker, the Photoshop laddie. Well, we're here on the course, and you know, this is a very challenging course in a lot of ways. First off is the mic cables. You know, a lot of times you'll hit a shot and it hits the mic cable, and it's tougher than a lot of courses here in Florida. That's why we like this course, because it's a real challenge. Anyway, hey, a couple of things. First off, in a couple of weeks we're going to be doing a giveaway, because we got a big show coming up, and we actually do get back in our studio, which is almost done. It's not going to be done next week. We thought it was going to be done this week. We thought it was going to be next week. It's going to be done the following week, but we're going to have the big show, the big rebranding, the big whole thing is coming up. And one of the things we're doing is giving away an Epson 3800 printer. It is my favorite printer of all time. It's the printer that I actually use at the office. It's the printer of your dreams, and you can win it right here on Photoshop TV. Now, here's something you're not going to win, I don't think, but my wife got me for Father's Day a really cool ball head, and when I get new gear, I have to tell people about it because I'm so psyched about it. It's the Really Right Stuff BH40 ball head. I got a Gitzo Traveler tripod and then the BH40 on top of it. And you've probably heard me talk about the BH55, which is the mother of all ball heads. This is the little brother of all ball heads. But it's fantastic and it's a great travel tripod. So go check it out at reallyRightStuff.com.
All right, well, in my tutorial, I had a specific question that someone sent me where they'd seen a graphic that had a letter that was semi-see-through with kind of a double stroke effect, and they're wondering an easy way to do that. So here's one way to do that. Let's take a look. So, of course, there's multiple ways to do this, but here's a way that I came up with. I just thought was kind of interesting because of the option that it gives you to change your mind. So I have a typeface called Freshman, which, of course, is perfect for this collegiate kind of look we're going for. This is a font that I got from a website called dafont.com. So let's make it pretty big so we can see it, but we should also make it a different color, something like that. Okay, so now we want to add our initial stroke, so I'm going to use a layer style stroke and change it to the appropriate shade that we want. I'm going to make it fairly thick. Now, normally I'm a big fan of putting the stroke inside because that's going to give us the best edges, but it depends on the letter that you're using. I found that sometimes center works equally well. And for now, pick a size. Of course, you can always go back and change it. And all we do to make this the second stroke is to hold down the Command or Control key and click on the type layer. And then we're going to select Modify, Contract, and how much you contract again is subject to experimentation. You want to do a fairly large amount because we want just this little bit of a border here. Now here's an optional step. At this point, when I actually did the whole thing, I wasn't terribly happy with the way, see how the contract is kind of like rounded here and rounded there. If you want to, what you could do now at this point is go into Quick Mask and using a tool like the polygonal lasso tool, just kind of make it look more the way you want. So for example, here I would just straighten that off and fill it with black and so on. I won't do the whole thing, but basically that's what you would simply do, is just spend a couple of moments going in and getting all these parts looking the way you want. Again, this is an optional step. You could leave it just the way it is with those kind of rounded areas if you want. So let's imagine I've done all of those. I'd go back out of Quick Mask. Now I simply would go to my type layer, hold down the Option or Alt key, it's very important, and click on the Add Layer Mask button. And two things are going to happen. It's going to punch out that hole, but because it does, see how it also has the stroke? Now, what the person that sent me the email, what he sent me the example, the orange color was kind of semi-see-through while the stroke was not, and that's where we use fill opacity. Over here you'll see there's a couple of options, the opacity and fill opacity. If I lowered the opacity, both the stroke and the middle part, the orange part, would be semi-see-through. So that's where we use fill. The fill opacity, what's going to happen is you'll see is the orange starts to become semi-see-through. See how you can see through the orange, but the green stroke is still there. And if you wanted to, you could do one additional step, and that's to load this as a selection, Command or Control click on it. It's going to be the opposite. You have to inverse a selection, Command Shift or Control Shift I. Make a new layer and we'll fill that. Now if I'd been smart, I would have made the actual same color of orange, because of course now I'm guessing what it is, but I could have done that if I'd planned better. Fill that and then lower the opacity of that a little bit, so you get two different kind of shades of color. Now because the stroke is centered, see how the middle stroke, the stroke on the inside is a little shorter. You might need to take this layer, use the filter menu, and if we choose maximum, you see that will just make it a little smaller. It's a little too small. Just have to find the right number. There we go. Now, because of the way we've done this, if someone came and said, you know what, we really need to put H instead of M, at this point it wouldn't be that difficult to basically just go back and kind of redo these steps. Fill this with white, change this to an H, and then simply go through the same steps. Load the selection, modify, contract by whatever amount you want. Optional alt click on the layer mask. Whoops, I missed the optional alt click. Oh well, of course I already have a layer mask. That's why I wasn't paying attention again. Fill with black, and there we go. So you can see it's a kind of a cool effect, but a pretty simple way that you can edit pretty easily.
Now, the thing I like about this is it keeps it as a type layer. So as you can see, if you need to, you can easily change the letter to a different one and still have the same effect very easily. So check it out. One way to do that very cool effect.
Photoshop Storm Team Action News with news anchor Stephanie Cross.
Hey guys, Stephanie again with the news for you today. First off, Adobe has announced Adobe Visual Communicator 3 software, which is a program designed to help people easily create television quality video broadcasts. For more information, check out this link right here. And next, Adobe has announced the Take Creative License Contest. All you have to do is use images from Adobe Stock Photos library to create a print ad. The winning design will run in the September issue of Graphic Design USA. For more information and details, check out this link right here. And last but not least, DxO Pro has created the first third-party plugin for Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. Photographers can now integrate DxO Optics Pro and Lightroom into their workflow. Check it out today. I'm Stephanie Cross, and I'll see you back next week.
Hey, guess what?
I got a rake.
I noticed that. And that is not one of the prizes for this contest. How about that for a segue?
Very good.
We had a contest last week, and we asked a question. We said, how do you make the menu look like this? What one operation? The answer was under workspace menu. Just ignore the man with the rake. The workspace menu, what's new in CS3 will make your menus look like that. So from all the 7 people that got it correct, I don't know if it was 7, it was probably more,
8.
We picked this lucky person to win the fabulous prizes. Look at this person's name. Now, as we usually do at this time, we follow up that contest with, yes, another contest. And for the prizes this time, you get a rake and this club, because I can't hit this for the life of me.
It hasn't worked well for Dave today.
Anyway, moving along, we have prizes for you. They are a bunch of things, not including a rake. It's like a book and a magazine and a subscription.
NAPP.
Yeah, and stuff like that. Good stuff that you'll be happy to win. And in order to win that prize, you must name this dialog box. So you'll see a dialog box right now. Send in the name of this dialog box. You know how to enter? Good luck.
Alrighty, we're back. Hey, hold on one second. Dave, what'd you get on that par 4?
Birdie.
Matt?
2.
Corey?
Birdie.
Birdie, and I got a 2. All right. Well, hey, you know, we like to leave you every show with little 3 things to do. But hey, before we do the 3 things to do, I just want to mention, here's something to do. Here's something to do.
It's an extra thing to do.
This is 4 things to do. Go to PhotoshopWorld.com. Let me tell you why. Because if you book your travel now to come to Photoshop World Vegas, and by the way, of course, we'll all be training there. And of course, they still won't be in our studio by September. No, we'll actually be there. But here's the thing is, there are incredible travel discounts if you act now. If you're a NAP member, first off, you're a NAP member, you're going to get airfare discounts. You're going to get discounts on rental cars. So go to the NAP member website and you'll get discounts on just about everything. And if you want to stay with us, we're staying at the Mandalay Bay, which is where the conference is, the Photoshop World Expo and Conference is hosted by the Mandalay Bay Conference and Resort and Casino. All right, now it's time for 3 for the road. What's yours, Dave?
I'm going to suggest you go to a blog. Jason David Moore has a blog where he does all kinds of different things, including interviewing all kinds of interesting people. So go check it out. It's pretty cool.
Excellent. Mr. Kloskowski.
I have a suggestion as well. I'm going to suggest you go to lightroomgalleries.com. There is free free Lightroom web galleries that you can download. I drink when I play golf, I'm sorry. It's the only way I can get through a round. So go check it out. It's lightroomgalleries.com.
That's a great site. Some of the stuff they have is just incredible there. Also, go check out whereisben.com to see where Ben Wilmore, our buddy Ben Wilmore, Photoshop World instructor and author, where he's going right now. Of course, he's driving around the country in his motor coach.
And he drinks.
And he drinks, but he's, energy drinks mostly. So anyway, go check it out. Go to whereisben.com. And Ben's been doing some really cool like grunge photography stuff. Go check it out at whereisben.com. Now, we'd like to leave you with one for the road. And that's why we're letting our hole-in-one laddie leave you with one for the road. So what's our tip to wrap up this show?
All right, so if you're inside Photoshop and you go into Toolbar, you know that when you click on a tool, you can you can break out that menu and it'll show you several different tools in there. Well, if you don't want to have to do that, you can hold down the Option or the Alt key on a PC and toggle through those tools without having to bring out that extra menu there. So that's par for the course. There you go.
Oh, it's really one for the cart.
All right. Hey, Thunder, that means it's time to head for the clubhouse.
That's a good closing shot.
In Florida, that's when we go in.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, next week we still will not be in our studio. We're going to be in our. We expect to be in our studio. We really do expect to be in our studio. Not of course this week, not next week, but the following week. And that's when we have all the big stuff, the giveaway, the Epson 3800, the greatest printer ever created by man. We'll also have the new branding, all the new stuff. We're very excited about that. So we hope you'll join us. But next week we'll be somewhere. Last week it was the back of Corey's Mini Cooper. This week it's on the golf course. Next week you'll just have to tune in and see. Hey, thanks to all of our sponsors, including Adobe Systems. And on behalf of myself, Scott Kelby, and a foreign man from a foreign land, Mr. Dave Cross.
See you next time.
And our buddy who we're very happy to have back with us, Mr. Max Koloskowski.
Take care.
And the Photoshop laddie himself.
Good to see you. We'll see you next time.
Guys, next week, right here on the course.